This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Talking of straight talking, we need...
This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Here we go. Good evening. I am having some sound issues, so I'm hoping you can hear me. If you can hear me, just let me know you can. Hi Rachel, good evening. I'm going to try and go through this morning's transmission. I know it was shared and it wasn't meant to be shared for a number of reasons, really. Brilliant, you can hear me. I've no idea what's going on at my end, mate. I can't hear a thing, so, well, I can hear myself clearly, but these headphones aren't working, so something's gone wrong somewhere. No idea. No idea. Oh, see, turn the music off. There you go. I couldn't even tell whether the music was on. Okay. The terms of reference. The terms of reference of the grooming gang inquiry, the assurance review, as one key element of it, had Shabir Ahmed, the Rochdale grooming gang ringleader. And I'd released 3 years ago, I'd released information that the ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang was employed by Oldham Council in a role that gave him access to children and young people. That's what I'd released. I'd also released that he was a member of the Labour Party. Now, you've got to bear in mind that Shabir Ahmed is globally infamous, and he's the equivalent of Jimmy Savile. He's the Jimmy Savile of the grooming gangs. That's who Shabir Ahmed is. And when he was arrested and when he was charged, ordinarily what should have happened if he was employed by Oldham Council at the time, ordinarily what should have happened was that Shabir Ahmed should have been exposed for his role at the council, and all of those who worked alongside him, senior people in this town, should have gone to the police and said to the police, disclosed, it's called disclosure, disclosed to the police, I worked alongside Shabir Ahmed here, and here. Not one of them went to the police, and all of this was subsequently hidden from Shabir Ahmed's court case. And Andy Burnham's grooming gang inquiry, assurance review, only revealed what I'd shared with you. He worked for the council, he had access to children and young people, and he was a member of the Labour Party. If you go past the executive summary and read the content of the assurance review, which, by the way, tells a completely different story to the headlines that they want you to believe, it confirms that they knew he was a sex offender, a child sex offender. And apparently the police didn't tell the council. Which is only half the story. Because when he was charged, why did the council not tell the public? Why?
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Monday, the 18th of July, second attempt. My name is Raja Mia. This is a Recusant 9 transmission. I've made this free to air for everyone. Thank you. Yeah, my grey hair is my grey hair. I couldn't really care any less, Lynn. What I look like on the outside hasn't really bothered me from a young man's age. So the older I get, the less I care, if I'm honest. What can I say? If you like these transmissions, if you find value in them, please share. We all know you're not going to get this anywhere else. I know a few of you were disappointed yesterday when you got in touch with me. I was in no fit state. I'm still in no fit state, actually, to return to some of the political stuff, and I'll explain why later. I'll show you why later, and you can judge for yourself what's going on there. If the assurance review, if Malcolm Newsom and Gary Ridgway had done their job on Shabir Ahmed, they would have confirmed with you what was shared with me last night. Hey, this isn't mine, by the way. One of the rabble, I suppose, who remain anonymous. I actually don't even know their name. Brought this information to me. I don't think they discovered it by chance. I think there's a journey in its own right there. And what it exposes is either, it's not either, there's a multitude of possibilities. One possibility is Newsom and Ridgway knew that Shabir Ahmed, as well as holding his council role, was actually a director of the Citizens Advice Bureau for over 8 years, senior level. And I'll explain why that matters in a moment. So either Ridgway and Newsom knew, and the council knew and hid it from him. The council clearly knew, and I'll get to that. But more worryingly is some of the names I'm going to share with you. And why it is that they did not come forward and disclose. Because that's what you're meant to do in the space we occupy, or I used to occupy, these people occupy. If you saw on the TV, if you saw in the newspapers, one of your former colleagues charged, convicted for the grooming and gang rape of God knows how many, and the human trafficking of what, hundreds of young people, hundreds of white working class girls, you would step forward and disclose the information that he also worked here, he also worked there, he also worked somewhere else. Now, remember this. The police are claiming there's some form of communications mix-up. It's not possible. On a high-level case like this, it's not possible. That his role in the council working with children and young people was kept hidden. And it's even less plausible that his role in the Citizens Advice Bureau was not just kept hidden then, but Newsom and Ridgway failed to disclose it now. What am I talking about? Some of you are asking. Let me show you. These clowns, these chancers, these wide boys, didn't type in Shabir Ahmed in Oldham Citizen Advice Bureau. Or if they did, they hid it. Look, what am I saying this? The filing history, if you look at the people, Shabir Ahmed. And Shabir Ahmed was appointed before the 23rd of June 1992 and resigned on the 18th of August 2000. He was allegedly an advice worker. You can see his occupation, advice worker. Now some of you are saying, oh, well, are you sure it's the same Shabir Ahmed? Well, what we can do, because of the joys of Company House, if you look, he resigned on the 18th of August 2000. So if I go back what's here, and I'll do this live so you can see what I'm doing. Go to filing history. Let's take that back. Just give me a second, we'll get there. Let's try page 7. You can see a few resignations in 2000, 1999. Let's have a look. Let's start here. Who's that? That's not who we want. Who's that? No. That's not who I want. Stephen Blair's, that's not who I want. I'll get there, give me 1 second. Let's try these. Here we go. Shabir Ahmed. And you can see his date of birth is the 23rd of the 1st, 52. So that would make him 69, 70 years old. Okay. Which cross-references with his age as disclosed in the most recent newspaper stories regarding him. So Shabir Ahmed was a director of the Citizens Advice Bureau. Now you need to understand something about the Citizens Advice Bureau. The Citizens Advice Bureau, you don't just become a director. You don't rock up and say, can I have a board position on the Citizens Advice Bureau, please? The Citizens Advice Bureau, those positions are reserved for the establishment of Oldham. It's Oldham Council and its main partners. It's the establishment. The establishment sits on that board. Not you, not I, it's the establishment. And Oldham Council historically has lavishly funded the Citizens Advice Bureau. Let me show you. Here's the accounts for 31st of March 1995. I've picked 3 years because these are 3 years when Shabir Ahmed was there. You can see the council here. Confirms in 1994, they funded the Citizens Advice Bureau with 144,977. In 1995, they funded it with 139,207. This is 1996. 136,155 pounds. And this is 1997, where they funded it with 156,063 pounds. So you can see they're funding it with a significant amount of money every year, and all of those years Shabir Ahmed was on the board. Now, I've picked a random year off the annual accounts on the paperwork on Companies House. You can see 31st of March 1999, annual report and accounts. And these are some of the names of the people Shabir Ahmed was working alongside. The first name to pull out there is a man called Graham Curry. Can you see Graham Curry there? Beneath Sarah Bell. So let me go back here. Give me 1 second. I want to bring it up so you can see it. Councillor Graham Roger Curry. You can see there straight away, Councillor Curry. Councillor Curry was a Labour Party councillor in Failsworth. The next name I want to pull out of here for you to look at is a man called he's not on there, but he's a bloke I want to pull out so you can see. Remember, Shabir Ahmed started before 1992. Jonathan Comyn Platt. You can see that. Resigned. So he had a period at overlapped with Shabir Ahmed. Is one of, I have nothing against Jonathan. Well, that's fair enough. So if you've never heard of him, but he was a councillor. So Curry was a councillor. Jonathan Comyn Platt, Citizens Advice Bureau, key solicitor, and I'm sure he was also a councillor. If you Google his name, I'll do this live for you. Just give me 1 second. You can see the Law Society. Senior Oldham figure. Good law guide. Let's see if it comes up. Shulver and Moorside Community Team. He was a trustee. Okay. Some more names I want to pull out of here. Sarah Bell, you'll see there. If you type in Sarah Bell, you'll find that the lady holds a position at Oldham Council, a strategic position at Oldham Council. Phil Averton. Can you see Phil Averton there? Phil Averton worked in the Chief Executive's office at Oldham Council. Some of these names. Some of these names here, and you can look yourself. You can look yourself for some of these names and see what you recognize. There's a Joan Hobson there. Joan Hobson worked for was the member secretary in the mayor's office of Oldham Council. That's Sarah Bell. Senior role in Oldham Council. Simon Allington, CAB Assistant District Manager, I think he is these days. There you go. Joan Hobson. Joan Mary Hobson. She worked as, member secretary in the mayor's office. It carries on. Rahima Kanan, I think, from what I can gather, is somehow linked to Abdul Jabbar. It's the Westwood Women's Association or something, or the advice worker around there. So at the time. So these people, you don't just become a director on Sashi Mohandes. I know Sashi well, good guy, senior figure in the Indian Temple. Worked for the council. Abdul Rashid, don't know him, I'm afraid. You can see. You can go and have a look yourself and do your own research. What I'm telling you is these people are establishment figures of this town council. They are the establishment in this town. That's who these people are. And if you have a look here, there's also a name here you'll see. Now, I can't confirm it. It's one of the reasons why I took earlier off. Is Abdul Malik. I cannot confirm with you whether that Abdul Malik is ex-councillor Abdul Malik. Maybe he would be able to tell you, but I can't tell you that. So, Shabir Ahmed works for... Shabir Ahmed was a senior director of Oldham Citizens Advice Bureau. During the period, he was grooming and gang raping children. Apparently, he was seconded to the Pakistani Centre, but he would be attending these meetings that took place every month. He would have been attending these meetings, sat alongside the great and the good of Oldham. Yet when he was arrested, not one of these individuals came forward and raised alarm bells. Not a single one. Why? Why did a single one not come forward? Solicitors, councillors, mayor's secretaries, Labour Party members. One of them, Graham Minor, at the time was working for Oldham Housing Aid. Linda Brown was a CAB employee. Julie Davies, from what I can make out, currently holds a strategic position at Oldham College. Steve Blair, service manager at the Citizens Advice Bureau. It's taking us to a very dark place, this. You didn't know that the Jimmy Savile of the grooming gang world worked for the council. You didn't know whilst he worked for the council, he had access to children and young people. You didn't know that he was a member of the Labour Party. You didn't know that investigations against him mysteriously were closed down, just like that. And you didn't know, Bridgeway Newsom didn't tell you that for nearly a decade, he held a strategic position at the Citizens Advice Bureau. Now, if I was a director at the Citizens Advice Bureau at the time, I'm sorry, I would have been disclosing that information straight away. Otherwise, it is possible that I was one of his customers. Think it through. Why did the great and the good not disclose their links to Shabir Ahmed? Were their names in his little black book? Were the names of all of these directors for a decade? Were they supplying him with girls? Were they telling him where to go and give his advice surgery because they were the places where you could pick the vulnerable kids up at? Was he doing his advice surgeries in Westwood, in Coldust, in Werneth, in Coppice? Forget just in Glodick. Where really was going around and taking bookings. Just what is the relationship between Shabir Ahmed and the establishment in Oldham? I don't even think that's up for debate, mate. I don't even think that's up for debate. It's absolutely staggering. It is absolutely staggering that the council hid Shabir Ahmed, the police hid Shabir Ahmed, and the great and the good of Oldham Council of Oldham Town hid Shabir Ahmed. He is the Epstein of Oldham. No wonder the guy was pissed when he was in court. He'd been doing it in plain sight. And now I'm starting to think his customer base and his network didn't just include slimy Pakistani men. It included key individuals in this town. Or am I taking it too far? Tell me. If you believe I'm taking it too far, tell me. Why? Because at every stage, this information is hidden from us, and hidden from us, and hidden from us. I know full well, ignore what Jabbar says in his really interesting way of explaining I didn't give Shabir Ahmed a reference. Hold on a second, let me bring the story up. Deputy Council leader denies categorically untrue claim he gave Rochdale grooming gang leader a reference. There are two bits I want to pull out of here. A question was asked, and Amanda Chadderton says this. Here you go. I have checked within the council, and we have no record of anybody giving a reference to Shabir Ahmed. The council don't keep records of references that go back at that time. She would be more honest if she said, we do not keep records dating back to that time, but she misleads you by saying we have no record of anyone giving a reference to Shabir Ahmed, because you have no record of anyone giving a reference to anyone in 2005 or 2006. So that's the first bit. Remember, categorically untrue? It's categorically untrue. Why is he saying, I have no recollection of ever having been approached or given any reference to this individual? I have no recollection. I have no recollection means I don't remember. That's what I have no recollection means. Now the question isn't this. Did he give a reference? Didn't he give a reference? That's not the issue here. It actually isn't. The issue here is Abdul Jabbar, deputy leader of Oldham Council, just deny it. Deny you did not know Shabir Ahmed. Deny you did not know Shabir Ahmed. Deny you did not know he worked for the council. Because if you knew Shabir Ahmed and kept it hidden, which I believe to be the case, then you should be sacked. If you knew Shabir Ahmed and you knew he worked for the council, that's gross misconduct. That's gross misconduct if that was the case. And you should be prosecuted. As should every other councillor in that council chamber who either knew Shabir Ahmed or knew he worked for the council. Remember, for the last 3 years, they've been dodging it. For the last 3 years, they've been dodging it. Exactly. No recollection, Salian, is not a no. No recollection is not a no. Oh, I'll wait till I get to them, mate. See, he's deliberately misleading you, John. Amanda Chadderton is deliberately misleading you. Here, let me play this.
Talking of straight talking, we need to focus on another issue that has raised its head again and again. 3 weeks ago, we had the report, the review into what had gone on with child sex exploitation in Oldham years and years ago, but over a very long period. And following that review, this week, there were some extraordinary scenes on Wednesday in the council chamber of Oldham, where the opposition councillors had put together a motion which sounded very sensible, that actually, given the gravity of what had happened, the concerns raised in this review, there should be a proper, full, open, transparent public inquiry into the events in and around Oldham, which of course is just one of so many towns in the north of England that have been suffering this child's exploitation. But the Labour councillors, en masse, voted down the idea of a public inquiry. The Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, was in the room. He, of course, is Labour. And the big question is, why? Why would they be against transparency and a public inquiry to try and dig into what's gone on, given there were some concerns about whether or not actually the review had had full access to all the required information? Well, there's no better person to talk to on this than Maggie Oliver, who used to be a detective. She's founder and chair of the Maggie Oliver Foundation, and who has done so much for so many victims of child sex exploitation. Maggie, a very good morning to you. Thanks for being with me on Ties Talk. I was astonished by the scenes in the council chamber, and it may be there are good reasons why the Labour councillors voted down the idea of a public inquiry, but you're so much closer to this than any of us. I thought it'd be great to get your take on it, where we are and where we go from here.
Hi, Richard. Nice to be here. What I'd say first of all is that when I was a detective in GMP, Greater Manchester Police, I never actually worked in Oldham, but the main victim stroke survivor who contributed to the Oldham review, I have been supporting for 3 years, so I know a little bit about Oldham, and I know that there is a lot of anger within that community about the fact that they feel they have been silenced. I think it will be interesting for your listeners to know that Sophie, as she's referred to in the review, but her real name is Samantha, and she wants to be referred to as Samantha. I've been supporting Sam for about 3 years, and it became clear towards the end of last year that the report was due to be published and she hadn't been approached. So she came to me and asked why. I went directly to the review team, and the truth is that they had been told by Oldham Council that they had approached Samantha and that she had said she did not wish to be involved in that review. Furthermore, Oldham Council said that she was at risk of committing serious self-harm or even suicide if they pursued their intention to interview her. I made them aware that that was not the truth, and subsequently I supported Sam as she gave her story to the review team. Now, I hadn't seen the review until it was published, the day it was published. I'd seen Sam's chapter, but I'd had no involvement in that review. But my concerns are that without my involvement and without Sam's relationship with me, her voice would not have been part of that review either. I wonder how many other victims and survivors wanted to contribute and were blocked from doing so.
There you go. Okay. Maggie Oliver is confirming that the CSE... Maggie Oliver is confirming that the Oldham CSE Assurance Review is a cover-up on the basis that it prevented witnesses, victims, from giving evidence. That's Maggie Oliver confirming it. It's no longer Raja Mia, the ethnic, saying it. It's Saint Maggie Oliver. And I'm not saying that to demean her. because no one can criticise Maggie Oliver. And she's clearly saying that's the case. Now, Andy Burnham, in December and also in March, claimed the delays in the CSE report was to make sure victims were given a chance to share their testimonies and victims' words were, incorporated into the review. The Greater Manchester Mayor has just been exposed as a liar. There you go, Sally. Yeah. They are, aren't they? I want you to find something else. Just give me 1 second, please. Yeah, listen to this. Listen. Let's see if you can hear it. This, I think, is the most shameful bit of last Wednesday's meeting, by the way. If you listen closely, Amanda Charlison is claiming that the victims' lives were not destroyed. She's claiming that the lives of victims were not destroyed. She's claiming she spoke to some people who told that to her. Even if one person or two people had said that to you, Amanda Charlison, even if that was the case, even if that was the case, this was not the time and place for you to use that as some sort of shield to protect your paedophile protecting council, when you won't even tell us how many children in our town have been groomed and gang raped, because Newsom and Ridgway's report refuses to tell us. Newsom and Ridgway in their report refuse to tell us how many of our town's children were groomed and gang raped, and that's just over that 3-year period. And the head of Children's Services, that guy's name is Gerard Jones. He point blank lied in a council meeting. In that extraordinary meeting, and Brian Hoban stood up and called him a liar. The leader of an opposition party in Oldham stood up and called him a liar, and he called him a liar because he knew he was lying. And Brian Hoban's evidence is cross-referenced in the actual assurance review when Newsom and Ridgway are forced to admit what Gerard Jones had done. This is a massive cover-up. And what's just emerged regarding Shabir Ahmed is just staggering. It's just staggering. They're carrying on like they don't care, Sally. That's what they're doing. They're carrying on like they just don't care. And you know what? Shall I be honest? They know they're getting away with it. They know they've all but got away with it. What was played out, apart from the fails of independence, and there's not enough of them, there's 5 of them, but there's not enough of them in a council of 60. Apart from them, the rest of it was just theatre. Now, I get on with Robert Barnes. I agree he's genuine. I get on with Lewis Quigg. I agree he genuinely wanted to make a difference there. But the parties don't. The Conservatives don't. They didn't even bother putting a motion in. The Lib Dems don't. Look. This is the scheme of delegate. This is the terms of reference. I keep going back to these things because they matter. Terms of reference. Three-year period. The risks in local shisha bars. Proven now, yeah. The nature and extent to which adults had inappropriate access to children and young people residents in children's homes in Oldham. They lied. Ridgway and Newsom lied. I've shared with you Child A's testimony. Child A makes specific reference to men signing in to rape her. Men signing in to rape her. Her testimony, by the way, was hidden. I mean, in fact, they didn't take her testimony, but her case files was hidden. Local taxi services to access children and young people for sexual exploitation. Proven. Proven. Oldham Council gave licences to convicted child sex offenders. Number 2, specific to Sam. Sam does not accept that report. Said it's not worth the paper it's written on. The case of known offenders previously employed within Oldham Council and the extent to which historic actions and employment records have been adequately investigated by the council. Shabir Ahmed. There you go. You can see Operation Hexagon is there in the terms of reference, set up to go after me and people who support me and dare ask questions. It's in the bloody terms of reference. It's more than a cover-up. This is criminal. This is criminal. These people knew. They knew. They knew all along. And they've got away with it. And not only have they got away with it, Jim McMahon sent me a message. And the Conservatives, who have supported, and I think Gary asked me a question earlier. Have a look at this, mate. It's my friend Nick. Nick wrote to Beth Sharp, who's the deputy leader, or was the deputy leader of the Conservatives in Oldham. And I'm going to go through this sequence because I need you to see what's taking place in the background, and I need you to understand why I am in the place I am. Because the Conservatives have benefited. Forget benefited from me. They've benefited from Labour's cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. And I'm okay with them benefiting. I believe every time Robert Barnes stands up and speaks, he does it for the right reasons. I believe every time that Lewis Quigg finds something technical within those documents, he does it for the right reason. But have a look at this. And they're just two new councillors. Yes, you can't blame them, but have a look at this. Please can you confirm if you are the deputy leader of the Oldham Conservative Party? I'm a party member and I'm after confirmation on two matters if you could help. Are the Oldham Conservative Party keeping central government up to date on developments here in Oldham regarding the recently published CSE review? If they are briefing government, please could I ask who, how and what is being shared with ministers? Perfectly reasonable question. Also, do the local Conservatives Party intend to issue a response to the spurious allegation made against Raja Mir by the two Oldham Labour MPs in respect of their comments about him in Parliament? Councillor Beth Sharp responding, remember, deputy leader. At the time, she's responding deputy leader. Thank you very much for your email and for your interest in the Oldham Conservative stance on CSE and Raja Mir. I have been away on leave and have only returned today and therefore have been somewhat out of the loop during this time. I have copied in Councillor Sheldon, the leader of the group, and I am sure he will be able to answer your concerns. Listen, I don't care where the fuck you've been on holiday. Don't give a shit. When you come back to work and you're in such a senior position and one of your members contacts you, you go and find out what the Conservatives have been doing. Have they briefed central government? And if so, when, how, who? What has the interactions been? You go and find that out. You don't pass the buck, you go and find that out. Forget a question to do with me. You go and find that out. Pass it on to her boss. Graham Sheldon. We have two nominated members, Councillor Dave Arnott and Councillor Luke Lancaster, who will release any comments. What? So you pass it up and he passes it down to Lancaster and Dave Arnott. And Graham Sheldon writes to Nick, good morning Nick, I have asked Dave or Luke to reply to you. Kind regards, Graham. Nick's got to chase him up. Good morning, Councillor Lancaster and Councillor Arnott. And most of you wouldn't do this. Most people wouldn't even write to your councillors. Most of you wouldn't persevere like this. Please can I ask who will be responding to my email? To Councillor Sharp and subsequently Councillor Sheldon. I appreciate he has only been 3 to 4 working days, so he's waited more or less a week. But the matter is important, and I'm writing to kindly request an urgent reply to the 2 questions they have listed below. Luke Lancaster eventually gets back to him. I am not sure I am best placed to answer your queries. I don't occupy a leadership position either within the Oldham and Saddleworth Conservative Federation or the Conservative group on Oldham MBC. So my responses are made in a personal capacity only. So why on earth did Sheldon pass it on to you? I am not aware of either the Federation or the group briefing national government on the recently published CSE review. Fuck me. Sorry, I'm swearing. Fuck me. Just pause for a second. The Conservatives have not briefed national government on the CSE review published in Oldham. The assurance review. Fucking hell. fuck? This is either incompetence of the highest level, or they're just playing. Not just with the public, they're playing with their own councillors, or with their own backbench councillors. How can the Conservatives have not put together a briefing document for central government? John, I can't defend it, mate. Can you? A decent man, my friend, but a decent man nonetheless, in his capacity as a Conservative member, writes to the deputy leader, who can't be bothered answering it, passes it on to the leader, who can't be bothered answering it, passes it on to two other people, neither of whom have the responsibility to answer it. One of them does respond, and starts off by saying he has no idea why he's being asked this question because it's not his remit. And then he confirms that they're they're hanging their own councillors out to dry. They're hanging Robert Barnes out to dry. I'd have written the bloody briefing paper for you pillocks. But you're too yellow-bellied, aren't you? To be publicly seen in any way. Forget supporting me, speaking out on behalf of the town. But only when it suits. The rest of it? Equally, I am not aware of whether the Federation intends on issuing a statement on the matter, though I would be doubtful, as it strikes me as a dispute between the accused, the MPs in question, and the complainant, Mr. Meyer. Who am I complaining to? No one. Why am I being attacked? Because I stood up for white working class children. The white Conservatives, happy to take benefits and gain seats and support as a consequence of me being dragged through the courts, locked up in police cells, named a racist by an MP, forget me. So many of you in your thousands who never vote Conservative went and voted Conservative because of this issue. And McMahon's called you far right and racist and they won't defend you. They won't even sit down. And they've got their own research officers, by the way. The council pays for one. They won't even put a paper together showing all of the inconsistencies in this assurance review. And Amanda Chadderton is relying on that. She's made reference to it twice. We've told the Home Office twice. The Home Office are aware of the assurance review. And they haven't raised any issues with it. Of course, they've not raised any issues with it. Because they've not been officially told by the bloody Conservatives in this town of the issues in it. I call it as I see it. I get abused from it. It clearly loses me support. But I call it as I see it. And this is reprehensible behaviour by the Oldham Conservatives. They've sold out the town and they've sold out one of their own councillors who is now being punished. If you find value in these transmissions, please like, please share. Every one I now do, I find extremely painful. I'm sure you understand. They're not going to pull their fingers out, mate. They're not going to pull their finger out. There's clearly a Conservative civil war going on between the Saddleworth and Oldham lot. I think that's evident from all the Oldham 3 resigning their positions. Can't defend me, I get it. You don't want to just use me, exploit me. It's fine, I get it. It's politics, I understand. Won't defend the people of the town who voted for you. Won't defend your own councillor who took a seat from the leader of the council for you. Won't write to the government, won't write to the Home Office detailing what's wrong with the assurance review. Wow. Wow. At what point do we accept this isn't incompetence, but rather strategic? It is strategy. It's complicity. It's collusion. So, Sally Ann, why aren't the Oldham Conservatives speaking out? Why aren't they? Why aren't the Oldham Conservatives speaking out? I ain't got a clue, Charles, about an injunction. I ain't got a clue. What do you want the injunction to do? That's exactly what I'm saying, Gary. Forget me. They're not even sticking up for their own fucking councillor, mate. Forget the townspeople. Forget me. Forget you. They're not even sticking up for their own councillor. They're sending him out to get battered. Yeah, you did well there, Robert. Yeah. And in the background, where is that fucking briefing paper to the Home Office? Come on. Come on, Sheldon, where is it? Come on, Beth Sharp, where is it? I know the Labour Party are bent. I know the paedophile protectors. I don't have to say it. 50, 60, 70, 80 people shouted it out at Amanda Chadderton and her mates at the meeting on Wednesday. Paedophile protectors, nonce protectors, that's what they called them. It's got nothing to do with any of this shit, mate. It's got nothing to do with, oh, Yorkshire this, not part of Oldham. It's got nothing to do with it. John, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I feel for the lad. I feel for Robert. I saw him on GB News yesterday. Was it yesterday? Lad did well. Spoke passionately, convincingly. I would have gone further, but you know I would have gone further. But, you know, he's on a journey. He did well. And I've seen it on Facebook. They've put it up. Oh, look what he's done. Listen. What's the point? What's the point of putting a counsellor out there to speak to GB News when you've not done the hard work of going through that 200-page report and putting together a briefing paper for the Home Office? Why? And that's allowed Amanda Chadderton repeatedly to say, well, the Home Office have never said anything that's wrong with our report. Who cares about the town's media, Lynn? We knew. I mean, that's a given, isn't it? We know they're not allies and they're not going to help. It's an irrelevance. Just as we knew who was going to vote. Who was going to vote to change the motion. I told you all in the afternoon what would happen. I told you all in the afternoon what would happen. Is that what the injunction is about, Gary? Reverse the amendment. Mate, so what? So they vote on the amendment as per FIP. Do you think any of the Labour Party lot will vote in support of FIP's amendment? They won't. They'll vote against it. Even if you manage to reverse the amendment and had it heard the way it should have been, all that will happen is the majority Labour-run council will just vote against it. That's all that will happen. We need a public inquiry. And that's what the focus should be on, in my opinion. We need to cause complete chaos in those council chambers between now and next May, in my opinion. Not behave like animals, although I understand why people are angry. You cage people and they behave like animals and you wonder why. You treat people like animals, they behave like animals. You locked people in, denied them access to water, to toilet facilities, and they behave like animals, and you wonder why. Yeah, it's the same in Shaw though, isn't it, mate? I don't know. Some of you are Conservatives here, right? I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. I've made this clear. I'm not a member of the Labour Party anymore, although I was the only party I've ever belonged to as a member of the Labour Party. I remember the Proud of lot falling out with me last year. Tell me something. On what basis are the 4 Oldham Conservatives sitting with the 5 Saddleworth Conservatives to have a group of 9? Why? Why don't they just break away? If they are treated in contempt, as you're suggesting, the Saddleworth lot think they're better. If the Oldham lot are treated in contempt, what are they doing there? Because the only consequence will be you'll get your asses handed to you in May. Forget taking right and south, Gary. You'll lose St. James's, definitely. Beth Sharp will be kicked out. You'll lose St. James's. You'll do well to keep hold of right and north, even with the boundary changes. And sorry, you'll lose Chadderton South. You lose the seat you've took with Robert Bounds. Because he'll be a shadow of a man after being dragged through hell. They don't want people there. They're making it uncomfortable because they don't want the members of the public there. So much for a resident-led council. That's what Amanda Chadderton promised, a resident-led council. Well then, you can ask me again. You can ask me 10 times, 20 times. I'm not your counsellor. I gave you my advice on Wednesday. I told you what would happen. I told you exactly how it would play out. And my recommendation was for the opposition councillors to walk out. They didn't, because they didn't want to disrespect the sanctity of the council chamber or whatever it is. I would argue turning a blind eye to the grooming and gang rape of thousands of my town's children matters more. Ordinarily, to get a public inquiry, as in Telford, Lynn, you have to have a politician on side, so the MP was on side in Telford. To get a public inquiry in Oldham, Lynn, the first thing we've got to do is demonstrate how this report is not fit for purpose. And the way you'd ordinarily do that, or the way I've done that with you at a grassroots level, is I've demonstrated inconsistency after inconsistency, lie after lie, deceit after deceit, because I've read the fucking 200 pages. Repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. What should have happened is the Conservatives should have written to the Mayor's office, because it's a GMCA report, raising serious concerns and detailing X, Y, and Z. Another one I've done today about Shabir Ahmed. One I did the day the report came out, or the day before the report came out, because I knew it was coming out. The failure to interview victims with Child A, and so on and so on. So I'd set that out. I send it to the Mayor. I'd write directly to the Home Secretary, calling for a public inquiry. And again, deconstruct the report. And I get the Conservatives to do that, because it's got to be led by the party that has the ear of government. That's what should happen. And to back that call for a public inquiry, I would get 10,000 signatures. I'd get 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 signatures. But not just that, I would cause chaos in the council chamber. I would make sure not a single council meeting is allowed to operate. That's what I would do. It's called civil disobedience. It's how the suffragettes got you women the vote. It's how the civil rights movement made sure people like me weren't treated like slaves. It's how the trade unions stood up for the working classes. I would cause chaos. I'd break down democracy in this town. I'd cause chaos with the public questions. I'd cause chaos at the council meetings. I'd stand with a group of people outside the leader of the council's front door, asking her to explain herself, then the deputy, and so on and so on. There's Chadderton Town Hall, there's a green space outside. I'd have an encampment outside there. I'd set up tents outside there. But how far are you willing to go? How far are you willing to go? I asked for people to join me at the extraordinary council meeting. How many did we get? 80, 90 of us? In a town with 250,000, we barely got 100 of us. I'm not going to do that. Not a chance in hell, Lynn. I'm not going to do that. It doesn't work that way. The QC won't get involved. It doesn't work that way. I don't mean it disrespectfully to any of you, because you're asking questions in sincerity. It just doesn't work that way. To get a public inquiry in Oldham, you've got to be prepared to make a stand and risk being dragged out of the council chamber, risk being arrested, risk having your employers contacted. How many of you really are willing to do that? It's hard, isn't it? My plan was would strengthen the Conservatives in Oldham. They'd show a bit of backbone and would strengthen them. And I'd use everything I have to try and put together a plan that would see them get elected across Oldham. That had been my plan. I think you all know that had been the plan. And for that plan to work, and you all can see I work. I know. I plan. I plan moves beyond moves beyond moves beyond moves. I plan. For that to work, ideally I wanted to start in May, June, July at the latest. I wanted to be ready before September. Not a chance in hell. Not a chance in hell. The way they're going, not a chance in hell. They're busy fighting amongst themselves, mate. They're hanging one of their own out to dry. And how are they going to pull together? The stronger party in that council chamber is the Lib Dems. It's not the Conservatives. The stronger opposition party is the Lib Dems. FIP. Done well. But they can only grow to 6. I'm encouraging them to expand to Hollingwood. Simply because of the way the district committees work and the way delegated budgets that can work. And you can make Hollingwood and Failsworth East and Failsworth West into like a 9-councillor district. It would work. But they've got to grow at a fast pace, and they're doing the best they can. The Conservatives are a national party. How did I get on with booking Chadderton Town Hall from this morning? I've done nothing. I'll host an event at Chadderton Town Hall if they let me book Chadderton Town Hall. If not, I'll host an event somewhere else. But how can any of you expect me to be some sort of proxy after this? How can any of you expect me after this? Come on, hand on heart. How can any of you expect me? You ready for the kicker? The Conservatives could have written to the government directly after deconstructing that farce of an assurance review and called for an independent public inquiry. They could have bypassed Oldham Council and done that themselves. Yeah, good luck on that. If you think the Lib Dems would ask for a public inquiry, you're mistaken. They wouldn't. To answer your question, mate, they've both got 9. It's basically 6 Tories in Saddleworth, 6 Lib Dems in Shaw and Crompton. That's historically power base, both of those areas. Lib Dems over the last few years have took control of Saddleworth, Western Leeds, and that's how they got 9. And the Conservatives have got 2 in Royton and 1 in Chadderton South. That's how they've got 9. Well, maybe that's where I go. You know why I wanted to go to Chadderton Town Hall? It's because Matt Mahon's office is in Chadderton Town Hall. I wanted to go and piss in his backyard. Or actually piss in his £100,000 toilets. Is what I wanted to do. I don't know, Lynn. Which is why when people keep saying, oh, are you doing this? Are you doing that? What are you doing next? I don't have all the answers. Part of me is hoping that today, as a consequence of today, there's a reaction from the Conservatives in Oldham. Why do you think I'm doing this? Part of me is hoping there's a reaction from some of you. And reflection. What are you prepared to do yourselves? How far are you willing to take it? Mate, when you can't speak out properly, with sincerity, and follow it through, for our town's children, when you can't do the right thing by our children, there is nothing stopping the opposition parties putting together a shared critique of the deficiencies in the assurance review, having that validated with members of the public. So we take it around the town, we do presentations to say this is what's wrong with it, this is what's wrong with it, this is what's wrong with it, and this is why it matters. Gaining momentum, getting signatures, and lobbying the government directly. There's nothing stopping us doing that. There's nothing stopping us doing that in partnership with the opposition parties. It's not something I can lead on. It's something I refuse to lead on. Because I've been hung out to dry repeatedly. We're in a dark place right now. All that backslapping on Wednesday was just theatre. The truth is, we're in a dark place right now. Amanda Chadderton and her mates got exactly what they wanted. The Lib Dems have played both sides, and they're clearly in a position that suits them. The Conservatives are in civil war. And the FIP demonstrated they'll go out swinging. I'm really sorry to hear that, Jessica. I'm really sorry to hear that. I've not given up, Kath. I'm setting out the challenge before us. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to talk it up. Why did you vote the Conservatives in? Why did some of you go out and vote the Conservatives in? Tell me. Tell me why you voted the Conservatives in. Is it because you're Conservatives, historically? I mean, this is, you know, red wall, solid red wall constituency. Why did you vote Conservatives? Why will you vote Conservatives in May? What will make you vote Conservatives in May? Yeah. Thanks, Sally. Yeah. You wanted them to stand up for the town. Yeah. Robert's a good man, Jessica. I think his own party is screwing him. I think we got 2 decent councillors in, don't you think? I think Lewis Krieger's a decent councillor. I think Robert Barnes is a decent councillor. Yeah, exactly that, Lynn. To be better opposition than the Lib Dems and to speak up for the people of the town. I believe in Gary Tarbuck, Charles. Yeah, John. Many people voted for the first time. Fuck all to do with national government, though, has it? Has it? It's got bugger all to do with because you believe Margaret Thatcher was a hero. Not anything to do with Boris or Sunak or any of the others. You voted decent guards in and tried to get Gary over the line. And that's what I've been saying all along. We vote for people who care. And then when we get them in, we want them to demonstrate that they care by putting their own careers on the line. And they have. Lewis has got multiple complaints outstanding against him. some by his own party. Robert's about to be took to standards. But the party isn't backing them. The party isn't backing them. Charles, I've explained already, you're not listening. Because you don't want to hear the answer I've given you. If you think an injunction will work, go and fucking do it. Who's stopping you? Go and fucking do it. Go and do your injunction. You, 10 others, 20 others, go and do it. I've explained to you already. Overturning the Labour Party motion will only result in 3 more months going, 4 more months going, and then the Labour Party lot will just vote and defeat the motion anyway. They're shameless. Can you not see? They're fucking shameless. Did you not see on the recorded vote how every one of them voted? They're shameless. What we should be doing is taking that, wrapping it up in rage, and mobilising behind people who will fight for us. But there aren't the people in that council chamber who will fight for us. Yes, the FIP lot will. Yes, 2 Conservatives will. But that's not enough. I wouldn't trust the Lib Dems at all. They're just opportunists. And I think it's clear that they will stand up and they will prop up a Labour Party minority council. I'm trying to work out how a coalition of FIPs and the Conservatives take 30 seats. But if the Conservatives aren't the party to do that, and by all accounts from what I can see they're not, every Labour Party councillor voted against the motion. Every single Labour Party councillor. We're discussing a number of parallel issues here. One is the public inquiry. One is taking control of the council or taking back our town. And one is, how do we strengthen the opposition? Have a think. Get back to me, because I ain't got the answers on this right now. I can share options, but I ain't got the answers. I think a starting point, I think the starting point has got to be the Home Office being contacted by the Conservatives with an analysis of the CSE assurance review and why it's not fit for purpose and why it's a cover-up. That's got to be the starting point. Telford didn't get theirs overnight. The leading 10 of them, 10 of the leading figures in the town tried to block a public inquiry. It took them years of perseverance. No group anywhere has got a public inquiry like that. Let me show you something. Because you say that, and I respect that. Let me show you something. Just give me a second. I'm going to show you something. That's Hollywood Ward. Gene Stratton had 1,000 votes. Liberal Democrats 151, Conservatives 313, John Lawrence 174, Northern Heart, whatever they are, 67. All of them put together didn't even come close. All of them put together didn't even come close. Mate, for us to compete in Hollywood, we need to start in September. We need to have started now. Whoever we're going to back, we needed to have started now, or we need to start in September at the latest. Because many of you know, when they come knocking in your door in March or April or May, come election time, how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? Yeah, people risk their lives in Telford to get the public inquiry, Sally Ann. You're right. But there's something more worrying here. Our inquiry isn't the same as anywhere else in this country, because if we get our inquiry and we get over the line, it takes the grooming gang scandal to a very, very uncomfortable place. We move away from it happened, it was a cover-up, children were failed. We move away from all of that. We even move away from the why it happened, which is what some of these places are now talking about, and I don't think it's actually the truth. I don't think it's enough of the truth, which is it was race relations. No. Because what it shows in Oldham, and what we've said consistently in Oldham, that was not the reason for the cover-up. The reason why the authorities turned a blind eye on these kids was because of the block vote and keeping control of power. And these children were exchanged in return for that. That takes it into a completely different space. Yes. When you turn up a week before election or 2 weeks before election, It's been a town that's been disenfranchised. Have a think. Get back to me. I'm not low, by the way. If you think I'm coming across low, I'm not low at all. I'm not defeated at all. I'm just setting out the scale of the challenge as I see it. And the issues we need to overcome. To one, get a public inquiry. And two, to get to a place where the people of the town can vote for decent opposition councillors who will help wrestle control away from the Labour Party. I'm not at all being negative. I'm just setting out what the challenge really is and how far away we are from being where we need to be. Jessica, I could win us an election off the back of that. Off the back of Labour blocked an inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of the town's children. But who do we vote for, Jessica? That's the problem here, isn't it? Who do we vote for? Hope you found value in the transmission. It was free to air because this morning's transmission with Shabir Ahmed, someone put it out there, shared it by mistake. It happens. These things happen. It's fine. But the problem was I wasn't 100% sure with some of the things I'd said in this morning's one, and was it's okay sharing it amongst 40, 50, 60 people who are subscribers once it gets out into the public domain that way. And I'm not sure on how something could be interpreted on what I've said. It would only cause me problems, so I took it off. And I did this again this evening. Shabir Ahmed confirmed, it was a director for Oldham Citizens Advice Bureau, sat alongside the great and the good in this town, yet not one of them came forward and took it to the council, to the police, took it to the courts, that this, the Jimmy Savile of the grooming gang world held such a strategic position. And because of that, the element investigating Shabir Ahmed is also now no longer fit for purpose. So we knew the element into Sophie's bit in the grooming gang report was not fit for purpose because the way Sophie was blocked, as in Sam was blocked from giving testimony. We now know Shabir Ahmed's bit is not fit for purpose. We know the taxi bit is not fit for purpose. And we also know the children's home bit is not fit for purpose because people were signing into children's homes to groom them and rape them. Someone needs to pull it all together. Ideally, the Conservatives need to pull it all together. FIP, I suppose, could pull it all together, but the government wouldn't pay them any attention. It needs to be the Conservatives. The Conservatives need to pull this together into some sort of briefing document and send it to the government. The Conservatives need any help, despite everything they've done in terms of how they've played about with me. I'm here to help. Put it on my Facebook page. Dear Raj Emir, please help. Signed, Oldham Conservatives. Do it yourself. Very, very good night. Take care. I'll speak to you all soon. And of course, please, if you can, buy me a cold Ribena. I shouldn't change that. Like, share. Yeah, you can share this. Like, share, do what you want. And I'll see you all some point soon. Take care.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.